Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Pacers Daily. I am your host, Hery Acosta. Happy Thursday, everybody. One more video to go this week. I record every Monday through Friday. Hit that like and subscribe button for more of this content. Let's get straight into it. Let's talk about the 2025 approach for the Pacers and what they really should be doing. Now, maximize the opportunities of what you do have. You got players like Nembhard, Mathurin playing new roles in the starting lineup. And then you're going to have Isaiah Jackson most likely being the full-time starter. So that's three players that are playing a position that they usually don't start in. Mathurin's usually not a starter. I mean, obviously he has the skills and the potential to be a starter, but with the Pacers just hasn't been a starter yet. So now he transitions into that role. He looked pretty decent the other day when he played against the Timberwolves. So I'm expecting a lot out of him, potentially an all-star level season, maybe just someone that could be considered one of the better shooting guards in the league. Nembhard, Nembhard was doing his thing. Nembhard was creating his shots, defending, pretty much what Nembhard does. And the one thing I'm really looking forward to is seeing how Siakam continues to develop outside the three-point line, just because he looks at his best right now behind the three-point line and just, playing his regular game, getting in the paint, and just being Siakam. He's going to really have to pick up being the star of this team this year. He did it with Toronto. Now it's his turn to do it in Indy. He has a better supporting cast here in Indy, so it shouldn't be as bad as when he had to pretty much take over for a Toronto team that had just lost every player from the 2019 championship team. But Pacers overall, Nesmith is looking good behind the three-point line. Jackson looks like he's going to be a good fit. He just has to just kind of hold back on the fouls a little bit because he did have two very early fouls in that preseason game, and just kind of work with what we have. The bench is looking great. We have Furphy and Walker who are looking to make that next step up. McConnell, Toppin, they're going to be fine. Shepard's going to be fine once he comes back. So there's a lot of positives. Now, DeLon Wright suffered a like a scary head injury against the Timberwolves when Jalen Clark ran into him on a steal. I don't know. I understand he was trying to go for a steal, but the way he went for it just went directly into DeLon Wright's head. He fell, got cut up, had to leave the game early. He's doing okay. Might need more just to make sure he's fine for the next preseason game. Now, this is not the best news for DeLon as he is trying to fight for a roster spot. And that injury could kind of put him in that case where Monte Morris was signed, had that injury, got cut right away. I'm hoping that's not the case. I really want to see what DeLon Wright can do, so I'm hoping he's back by next preseason game. But that is a possibility of what could happen because of this injury. And we did just sign someone else that I'm going to talk about here in a bit. That's really funny signing, in my opinion, just because we picked up two Knicks players who actually played against us in the Eastern Conference Finals. Both had some pretty decent showings off the bench when Thibodeau actually wanted to utilize his bench. But, yeah, for DeLon, hope everything's okay. That did look pretty bad on TV. That cut, kind of just bled in. But hoping everything's okay. Hoping we can see more of you on the court before final training camp cuts are sealed. So, next, we got James Wiseman. I just want to talk about Wiseman. Obviously, I could have talked about Isaiah Jackson too, just because it was his first game in a year. But with Wiseman, it's a little different, just because ever since Wiseman left Golden State to go to the Pistons, it feels like everyone's just giving up hope on him. I see why, just because he was the second pick in a draft that featured multiple future All-Stars, multiple starters, while Wiseman was second overall and hadn't really, done too much. He did win a championship. Obviously, didn't even play that year, but he did win a championship. But then people look back and they're like, what would happen if the Warriors had drafted LaMelo or Tyrese Maxey, Obi, just anyone else in that draft over Wiseman? How would they have done? Would have been like a perfect case scenario for players that haven't yet developed into all-stars, or what current all-stars still have been all-stars in the Warriors. Now, obviously, they wouldn't have looked for Halliburton or Maxey just because they had Curry, but or even LaMelo. But that's just something to look back at. But with the Pacers, I can see him kind of breaking out. Now it all depends on if he actually makes the team. He had a decent showing. I mean, 2 for 2, 5 points, 15 minutes, 4 rebounds. But I just want to see a little bit more from him, just because he has the potential. He's still young. He's only 24 years old, one of the youngest players in that draft. And there's just a lot that he can still do. So there's a lot that we got to see from him before we can really make too many assumptions as to how he's really going to do with the Pacers. Last year, he looked like he was going to have a good season. He just in the first 6 minutes of the season, he looked like he was going to be good. And then obviously, torn Achilles. We know he has injury bugs, but we're just hoping he can stay healthy and see where he can go from there. And last but not least, the man with one of the wildest jump shots in the NBA is now a member of the Pacers on a training camp deal, and we were talking about Cameron Payne. Now, Payne has played with a lot of different teams, recently with the Knicks, with the Bucks, with the Sixers. He's played all around the league. Played with the Bulls, the Thunder. So he's Phoenix. He's found his way around the league a little bit, always picking up the minimums or just a couple $1 million deals here and there. Because he is a good player off the bench to have. He is a good three-point shooter. Now, he's very inconsistent from the three. Sometimes you watch him play, and he'll take 3 threes, and 2 of them are air balls, and 1 of them barely hits the rim. Or the next game, he shoots 4, makes all 4 of them without an issue. He played pretty well, but that's a little stretch. Played decent against the Pacers back in the conference finals. One of the first players off the bench was Cameron Payne. Now, he actually had been a decent rotation piece for them throughout the season. He's been one of the bench players with the most minutes of the Knicks. He actually played a little bit more than DeLon Wright, so I was a little shocked that Cam Payne was unsigned as long as he was. He's just a little undersized and just, probably not a player that a lot of teams are looking for right now. But who knows? He could fit on the Pacers. I don't fully see him making the roster. I think he'll look good in preseason, but they're going to go with other players, mostly players that have already been on the roster, as obviously this is just a training camp deal. So we'll see where it goes from there. I'm going to root for him. I'm going to root for everybody just because, I want this team to just be good. That's all I really care about at this point. But, good luck to Cam Payne. Hopefully DeLon Wright's okay. Good luck to James Wiseman, because I know he's also fighting for a roster spot. But as always, I'm your host, Hery Acosta. This is Pacers Daily. Boom, baby, and go, Sirs.